How did, in the Federalist Papers, what did Publius argue related to the militia and how it influenced our constitutional understanding?
Well, Publius, of course, is the pseudonym that Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and James Madison adopt when they write in defense of the Constitution in New York. It has, since its publication, become the most influential text, I think, interpreting the Constitution. At the time, although it has become the most influential text in terms of how we understand the Constitution today, at the time I'm not sure that it was fully appreciated. It was a very complicated text, and we actually have some contemporary comments saying, that it's basically a text that is going to put people to sleep, as it may have done to some students, unfortunately. Although I think it's a great text. I think it's really interesting. And what they talk about several things. They talk about how the fear of the standing army that Anti-Federalists have been harping on really ignores the fact that America still has a militia tradition, and that the militia tradition will continue to be important, and it will act as a check on the potential of federal tyranny. Now, that's worth pausing for a moment, because the idea that states could use their militias against the federal government doesn't sound like any militia I've heard of today, because the last time that we tried that, well, we tried it during that was tried during the Civil Rights era, and they sent in the 82nd Airborne to sort that one out. The time before that was, of course, the Civil War, and that didn't work so well for that idea either. But I think there's no question that that at the founding moment, the idea that states reserve this kind of this emergency option of mobilizing their militias against the federal government, I wouldn't say that's the right interpretation of the Constitution, but it's an eminently plausible interpretation for some people, and many people do make that argument. I don't think we actually sort that issue out until Lincoln.
Well, isn't that what the Anti-Federalists were arguing, because they focused on the states' rights during that period, and then therefore would influence the right to militia or the right to bear arms and the militia in terms of their states' rights?
Yes, I think the Anti-Federalists very clearly believe that the militia is essential as the sort of final check against federal tyranny. What's more interesting is Hamilton and Madison, I think, are forced in the Federalist, where they might not have been so inclined at the beginning of ratification, to concede that yes, in some nightmare scenario, that is possible. I don't think if you'd have asked them when they left Philadelphia, I think they would have been, no, I don't think so, or hadn't really thought about that, doesn't sound right to me. But I think after being hounded and pounded on this issue, they concede that point. But they try to say that it's so apocalyptic in terms of its scenario that it's not worth taking seriously, but yes, it is there.